Hi class. So much of what we've studied before was kind of focused more on grammar, pronunciation, and those are all very important. But with writing, it's something that needs to take time and evolve just like all of your other skills. Now, with writing, it's so important, especially in a time like this where everything is remote, right? We use cell phones, we use laptops, tablets, computers to use these tools to communicate. So, we want to make sure in our writing it is expressed as clearly as possible. So if you look behind me here, we're going to be focusing on the building blocks of writing in this video. So there's kind of like a ladder. So we start with simple sentences, the most basic. Then we move on to compound sentences. Then after comes complex sentences. And as you can imagine, later on, the highest level of this building block arrangement is to have a compound complex sentence fusion, okay? Now, there's a lot of problems that writers struggle with here. One is fragments or phrases, and we're also going to be reviewing that later. So I have for you this amazing website, and we're going to take a look at these different types of sentences. And as we go along, I'm going to give you examples of each to help guide you. So let's get started. Now, before we begin looking at the different types of sentences, why is this so important, Caroline? Why do you care if there's different types of sentences? Well, for one, the style that you write, your voice as a writer, comes from a variety of things. But for me, the two most important things is style, your sentence types, the variety that you use, and your vocabulary. Now imagine that everyone writes the same essay, right? We have 50 people in the class. Everyone writes the same topic. Interestingly, it's all going to be expressed very differently, right? Now, why is that? You create a rhythm in your writing based on the variety of sentence structures you use. In the past, I had a lot of trouble and I would write too many long sentences, these. And what happened was it was too much information for my reader, and I realized, I need to break it down. So I have a variety of using simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences. And I realized that, you know what, it's clarified. The ideas are expressed in a clearer way. And that could be used for any type of writing, whether you're in a job interview, you're sending emails, or you are writing an essay, right? Now, this is so key. Now, let's take a look at the different types of sentences because each of these represent a different part of your voice or your idea, okay? So, sometimes, for example, if a writer has a lot of long sentences, like I usually do, then I might want to use a simple sentence as kind of like an exclamation point, something to emphasize an idea. So, let's take a look at the different types of sentences. Now, a simple sentence has two parts, right? Now, to put simply, a simple sentence is an independent clause, okay? Not Santa Claus, right? A clause. A clause has a verb and a subject and a verb together. It is independent, it is strong, it can stand by itself, otherwise known as a simple sentence. Now, for short, sometimes you might see me saying I see on your paper, okay? That just means it has a subject and predicate. So anytime you see this, know that it's a simple sentence, it's strong and can stand on its own. Now, you are very familiar with simple sentences, but let's take a look at a few. Now, simple sentence typically has a punctuation, a capital letter, right, at the beginning, and then a period or an exclamation point or a question mark at the end, right? Now, some examples, let's take a look, right? Anytime you see these three lines, that means the first letter of each new sentence must be capitalized. But I know that you already know that. Okay, now, of course, at the end, we need to make sure we have punctuation. A problem that many students have are that their sentences are too long. They use comma after comma after comma, and that is not an effective way of breaking up a sentence. Now let's see. Some examples of simple sentences, right, are here below. The iPod battery lasts for days. The iPod battery is the subject. Lasts for days, as you can imagine, is the predicate. It's the verb part of the sentence, right? I could have it be even simpler if I want. I could say the cat runs. The cat is the subject, runs is the verb. Very, very simple, but that is a completely independent clause. It can stand on its own. I could say I sleep. There's only two words in that sentence, I and sleep, but that is a simple sentence. It is a complete idea, okay? Now let's move on to compound sentences because I feel like this is where a lot of students struggle. So compound sentences are a little tricky because there's more than one way to write a compound sentence. The important idea is that compound sentences have two simple sentences inside, okay? Don't forget that. Two simple sentences, two independent clauses, okay, as mentioned here. Now, the way you can combine the two sentences, there's a lot of different ways. So one is called the coordinating conjunction, otherwise known as fanboys. These are our fanboys words. We say fanboys because the first letter of each of these conjunctions represent fanboys. The most common ones you may see are and, but, or, yet, and so. To be honest, I don't really see nor and I don't really see for these days. So I'm going to refer to these as fanboys. Now, anytime you see fanboys between two sentences, let me go back. Here, you realize that it's separated by the sentence, a comma, fanboys, the second sentence, and a period, okay? Now, don't forget the importance of this comma. It's acting as a bridge, communicating to the reader, hey, there's a reason why this writer is connecting these two ideas. There's some sort of connection between the two. Now take a look behind me, okay? We have an example of compound sentence. This is method 1. Now there's 3 ways to put it together. This is why writing is so expressive because you're like the mastermind. You can arrange these sentences, these ideas, however you'd like, and that's the best part, the creative experience of it. Now, method number 1, we have fanboys, right? For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Okay. Now, I have 2 simple sentences here. Remember, that means an independent clause. It can stand by itself. So this is my subject, this is my verb, right? I love chocolate. My subject, and then my sentence predicate, right? Sentence number 2, it, and then makes me fat, right? But there's a relationship between the two. I want to show that there's a connection. So I love chocolate. I'm going to use this one, but, okay? So I love chocolate, comma, but, and then you're gonna lowercase this sentence. It makes me fat, right? In this case, I have a positive idea, and then, this is negative, right? That's why we use but, right? If I wanted to use, let's say, let's do and, right? And can be positive, positive. So let's erase this. Let's say, I love chocolate and it tastes delicious, right? In this case, same thing. I have one simple sentence, comma, fanboys, and a second sentence, right? Notice this second sentence, this simple sentence is not capitalized because I'm showing that there's a connection between the two. So you only have one final punctuation, one period, one exclamation mark, what have you, here, okay? So one sentence, comma, fanboys, second sentence, okay? Now, let's take a look at another method of using this compound sentence because remember there's 3. So what about this method? Now this, let me move forward here. This is called the conjunctive adverb, okay? Now you notice that the punctuation is slightly different. Here, this is called a semicolon, and then we have a comma. Why so much? I'm sorry, I know English can be very, very challenging and difficult, but I promise you, once you get the hang of this, it will feel so much better. So let's look at the board behind me and let's review what a conjunctive adverb is. So if we look back here, method number 2. Okay, now method number 2, we have one sentence, right? Then we have a semicolon. One of these, I call them hot mama words, okay? However, otherwise, therefore, moreover, additionally, meanwhile, accordingly, similarly. You don't need to remember the word that they're conjunctive adverbs. Instead of remember hot mamas, okay? So that means we're gonna have one of these words here, okay? You choose. Then after the semicolon, you need a comma, your second sentence. So this is sentence number 1, this is sentence number 2. Now again, why am I complicating this? Why am I doing this? Why can't I just separate it into 2? Because this shows the reader that, hey, you have a very good understanding, good control of your writing. And one reason why you're doing this is because there's, again, some sort of relationship. There's a relationship between these two ideas, between idea 1 and idea 2. So ones that I like to use, I like using however, I like using therefore, I use moreover, sometimes additionally, sometimes similarly. But you pick and choose, right? You see what you like doing, experiment, and you can always send questions to me about this, and I'd be more than happy to go over them with you. Okay, so let's try to put two sentences together using hot mamas. So this example that I've just written down, right? You need to look for the connection, the relationship between the two. So if I say, I lost all my money at the casino. Oh no, that's terrible news. Not good, right? Now I want to use one of these hot mama words. If you can't tell, that's supposed to be a fire. Okay, so after my first sentence, then I'm gonna have a semicolon, one of these hot mama words, which I'm using therefore, taking that, putting it here, comma, and then my second sentence. My second sentence must show a relationship to the first idea. So I lost all my money at the casino in Vegas. Therefore, as a result, now I'm hoping, right? I'm banking on this last $20 bill to win me back all my losses. Now, I could have easily just put a period, separated that if I wanted to. But the point is, as my sentences are getting longer, I'm telling the reader, hey, I'm signaling, like, I'm continuing this train of thought, these ideas, because there's a reason, there's a connection between the two, okay? Now, on the website, it gives you a variety as well that are different than hot mamas, but you're free to use them. So don't forget, anytime you use hot mamas, one of these adverbs, semicolon before. It's going to be in between, and then you have a comma. So the sentence they gave you here was, the USC tour thrilled, excited, made my cousin very happy. My cousin. Therefore, she recommended that I see the campus, right? She loved it so much. As a result, she wanted her cousin to see the campus. Now, these are some conjunctive adverbs that they provide you. However, surprisingly, therefore, luckily, confidently, unfortunately. The li, as you can see, are adverbs, examples of adverbs, right? Now, the final example that we're going to review, method number 3, and you are not obligated. You don't have to use all of these, but I want to introduce you to a variety so you can pick and choose and see what works best for you. In this case, we're going to use a semicolon. Semicolon without anything else in between. This just shows that there's a direct relationship between sentence 1 and sentence 2. So for example, the US tour thrilled my cousin, semicolon. She highly recommended it. Simple enough, right? But make sure there is a strong relationship between the two. Now, this to me is maybe my least favorite of the 3 methods, okay? This is the semicolon method. I don't use this too often, but sometimes I will, because again, it's our goal, right? To use a variety of sentence structures. That way it's not boring for the reader either, because if you have too many short sentences, it's going to be choppy, like you're on a bumpy road, right? Like, I had a good day. I went to the park. I ran with my dog. We had fun after we had lunch. It's a little boring. It's not bad. Your ideas could be great, but the idea is it's choppy, right? But if you the opposite, if you have too many long sentences, then you can also bore your reader because now with technology, people have short attention spans. That's why you need a variety. Keep them on their toes, keep them interested, okay? Now here, one sentence, semicolon, second sentence, and one punctuation at the end, okay? Now, the purpose for commas and semicolons are one, to show that there's a connection between the two sentences, right? And two, for the reader to kind of take a break, to register the information, take a little pause before they continue. So, sentence number one, my sick baby kept me up all night. Whew. Semicolon, I'm beyond exhausted. Now you can easily see the relationship between the two, right? My sick baby maybe was crying all night, screaming. So I didn't sleep, so I'm beyond exhausted. Now these two are directly related, right? That's why you might want to go for method number 3. Maybe if you feel like you're using too many words, you want to cut down but show that relationship, you can use this method, okay? Now, I know we're going through these relatively quickly. We'll have more practice exercises in class, but anytime if you feel confused, you don't understand anything, shoot me a message inside YouTube or my email or wherever you know where to find me, okay? Now, let's take a look here. Let's continue on with this. So, we've talked about simple sentences, compound sentences, and now we're going to go to complex sentences. Okay. Now, we talked about this as well, how good writing has a specific style, your voice. So part of that is incorporating the vocabulary and using these sentence structures. Okay, here we go. Complex sentences. Complex, as you can guess by the name, it is going to be a bit trickier, okay? Now let's just try to simplify this as best we can. So complex sentence. Remember I told you a simple sentence is an independent clause? It means it can stand by itself. But other times in English, we have a dependent clause. A dependent clause means it is not complete. A clause has a subject and a verb, but it's not a complete idea. So, for example, if you look over here, okay, complex sentence, you can have a dependent clause. So dependent clause, think of like a little baby, right? The baby needs the mom or the dad, the strong one, right? Because an adult can live alone, but a baby cannot, right? In this case, for a complex clause, if you have a dependent clause first, you're gonna need a comma, then an independent clause. Because the dependent clause, if it's by itself, it's not a sentence, it's a fragment, okay? So for example, if I say after, okay, if I'm talking to you and we're having a conversation and I say, okay, so after I went to the gym, what? Right? You're like, what, Caroline? What else happened, right? After I went to the gym, this is going to be my dependent clause because this is my signal word. If I have after before, this is going to become a dependent clause. If I said I went to the gym, that's fine. That's a simple sentence by itself. But because I add this word after, now it's going to become a dependent clause. So after I went to the gym, comma, I took a shower. Right? This, I took a shower, this can be an independent clause. If I want, I can erase all of this and I can just say I took a shower. But the fact that there's a relationship between the two, after I went to the gym, I took a shower. After I read the book, I watched the movie, for example, right? Other words that signal this, there's a lot, and I'm going to show you a list. If I say, for example, when. I always tell my students this one, when. Okay, when I was little. Okay, the reason why I have a comma there is because this is an incomplete idea, right? If I say I was little, that's a simple sentence. But look, because I add this when in front, it's going to change it to a dependent clause. Anytime you're confused about what a dependent clause is, read your sentences out loud and you'll be surprised to know, oh, wait, that's not a complete sentence, right? If I'm talking to you and like, hey, how's your day going? And I tell you a story. Oh, when I was young, what, right? When I was young, I broke my leg. I broke my leg. This is an example of an independent clause, right? But I'm putting the connection two together. So I have a dependent, then an independent, right? Now, I did not really break my leg, but I had a lot of injuries because I was very, very clumsy. Okay, so one way of doing this is having a dependent clause first, comma, and an independent clause, right? Let's look at this same sentence with a different arrangement. So let's say, for example, I have, let's say I want to switch this. For some reason, I want to have my independent clause first. So I can have, I'm going to put it here, this is option one, or you can have IC, independent clause, and DC, no comma, right? So if I want to say, for example, if I want to express that, so if we take a look at this example, right? I have my independent clause at the end, right? I'm going to show you this model 1, model 2 with this example. So whenever again is a keyword for a dependent clause. Whenever I go to the toy store, I roll, my son begs me for a new toy. Every time we go, right? Whenever. So right now I'm following this. I have my dependent clause first, comma, then my independent clause, right? If I wanted, I can change this. I can cut this and put it at the bottom here. So let me do that for you right now. Okay, so same sentence, same idea. All I'm doing is reversing these. So when you have your independent clause first, because it's strong enough, you don't need a comma, nothing in between. So now my independent clause first. My son begs me for a new toy. I can have that as my own sentence. Or if I want to give more information, more context, then I can add my dependent clause after. Whenever I go to the store. Notice, no punctuation between, no comma in between, no semicolon, right? This is an example of a complex sentence. Now, there are other words you can use before the independent sentence or independent clause to change it to a dependent. So, for example, here are some words called subordinating conjunctions to create adverbial clauses, which just means, put simply, it's a dependent clause. It's not strong enough to stand on its own. So you could use after I went to the gym. Although I love chocolate, because she had no money. Before I was in the car accident. Even if I were a billionaire. If you were on time. In order to fix the coronavirus situation. No matter how difficult life can get. Since you were early, unless I win the lottery, when I came home, whenever my friend calls me. So all of those are examples of dependent clauses, meaning they are not finished thoughts. If you ever use this and you have a problem with it, then you'll notice on your feedback, I'm going to say fragment or dependent clause, meaning it's not complete. This clause cannot stand by itself. It needs the assistance of an independent clause, a stronger sentence, or a simple sentence. Okay, so we've covered simple sentences, which are independent clauses. We've covered compound sentences, which means you're putting two independent clauses, two simple sentences together, tied together with fanboys, hot mamas, or just a semicolon, right? And then we talked about complex sentences, which have a dependent clause with an independent clause. Dependent clause, comma, independent clause, or independent clause, a dependent clause, right? This is a lot of information. I know. But right now, I want to introduce you to all of them so you have an idea of the language I'm using to identify what type of sentence, okay? Now, we're going to have a lot of practice examples in our class, But the final one, the most difficult one that I need to introduce you to is the compound complex sentences. The two most difficult sentences. Now we're marrying them. Now that we're going to put them together. So, compound hyphen complex sentence. Dun dun dun. All right. Now, compound complex sentence has one or more independent clauses, so simple sentences, and at least one dependent clause, so the baby sentence, right? The unfinished, incomplete thought. So different types of sentences to combine what you've learned about compound complex. So putting it all together, like we talked about. So independent clauses, right? We have the choice of using fanboys or conjunctive adverbs, which I call them hot mamas, right? And you can also use subordinating conjunctions, right? The independent clause or the dependent clause, comma, independent clause. Now, take a look at this sentence, okay? Let's see if we can find the one dependent and two independent clauses. Okay, so think about this. One dependent and one independent clause make a complex sentence. Then if we connect that with another independent sentence, it's going to make a compound complex sentence. So because, already I know from seeing this word because, this is going to be a complex sentence. Because you will be expected to write well in college, comma, now my independent clause. You will want to learn these 4 types of sentences. If I want, I can change this to a period. But no, I want to continue this idea. It's more complex. So fanboys, comma, and you will want to use them to communicate your ideas effectively. Whew, Caroline, that's a lot of information. I know. But as you move on, you will become more acclimated, more adjusted to using this, and then you'll just continue to brush up on your skills and you'll become a fantastic writer. So, let's take a look at that together. Now we're putting it all together, okay? So, compound complex sentence, the minimum. Independent clause, otherwise known as simple sentence, right? Simple sentences. I run, the cat sleeps, he works, right? I have a subject and a verb. It's a complete idea. That is what an independent clause is because it's like an adult. You can be by yourself. Dependent is like a little baby. You need the support of an adult or an independent clause for the sentence to work, okay? So, look at this. Although I love spending time with my dog during the quarantine, I miss my students, I want to see them. Okay, sometimes when you read a sentence out loud, you may realize that's a lot to say in one breath. So, there's something wrong here. I need punctuations, I need commas to separate this idea. Now, because I have the word although in the beginning, although, is that independent or dependent? Tell me. Dependent, right? Dependent. This is my dependent clause. Okay, so although I love spending time with my dog during the quarantine, so dependent clause first, which means, exactly, I need a comma before my independent clause, right? If I want, I can have a period there. Although I love spending time with my dog during the quarantine, comma, I miss my students. I miss my students. Okay, but I have one dependent clause, one independent clause. But to have a compound complex together, I need a fanboys. I need it to be longer. So instead of putting a period here, I'm going to put comma and fanboys. And I want to see them. So now I have my independent clause, two independent clauses, check, check. I have my dependent clause, and I have the correct punctuation to tie them all together because I have my dependent clause, comma, independent clause, comma, fanboys. Great job, everyone. I know this is a long video, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it here, and moving forward, I'm going to have more practice examples for you, and you tell me what kind of sentence is this? What's wrong with this sentence, and how can we improve it, okay? You're doing fantastic. Hang in there, and like always, ask me if you have any questions at all, okay? This is a lot. This is more advanced writing material, okay? But like anyone, native speakers, people that are learning English, Writing is a skill that takes a lot of patience and a lot of time. It wasn't until years and years and years of getting criticism, feedback from professors and really brilliant writers that I began to find my own voice. And once you do, you'll be set. You'll be so confident and you'll be able to write in whatever environment you're in. Whether it's school, whether it's work, whether it's you're talking to your child's teacher, right? You're going to feel confident that you have the tools. And writing helps you with speech so much. I tell that to all my students. So, have a wonderful day. Send me some questions if you have any down below the YouTube comments, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye, everyone. Take care. Stay safe, please. We need you.